The A minor pentatonic scale. All right. I think this is the best scale to learn as a well, not, I mean, as an absolute beginner. I mean, you're hanging on for dear life as an absolute beginner at this point. But once you get to that stage where you're going to start having a roving eye and you're going to be looking at things like scales, wondering what's going on, should I take the plunge? This would be a great first time scale. And there's a few reasons why, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. The A minor pentatonic scale. All right, so let's take a look at what I think are the advantages of learning as a first scale, right? The A minor pentatonic. And believe me, for me to have chosen this in my journey for the first scale, it must be easy. And that's exactly the first reason, is that I think it's an easy scale to play. The shape is pretty straightforward. It's not, there's not a lot of zigzagging going on, right? There's just those, it's kind of like a beginning and an end. So you have that, what you would know as 5/8. Now, I don't like that, and I think that I'm going to use it here, but I don't like that. That was part of my problem of learning, is that whole number, trying to memorize those numbers. I found it easier and more beneficial in the long run to refer to these as notes. So you're going to hear me do a little bit of both, okay? So for now, the scale is, as you know, probably 5/8, right? Which you play with your pinky, right? 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, 5/8. Okay. I just want to interject something here. When I learned this, I found it hard to use my pinky on this string here, okay, on the 8th fret. So I didn't try, and I stopped using my pinky, and I started using my ring finger and pivoting my whole hand over. And it's something that I really regret. It really retarded my pinky use further in my playing, and I've never really recovered from that. So I just want to let you know that it's difficult at first to get your pinky into action with the strength needed, right? And it hurts sometimes, but you really should try to keep it going, because it will be advantageous to you moving forward. So anyways, you make the decision how you want to go from there, but it's 5/8, right? Or AC, as I would call it, and then D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, and this is the same as the high string, or the 6th string here at the top of the guitar, and that's AC, right? So we learn how to play those up and down. And now what you need to do is learn them thoroughly, right? The shape's relatively easy. Learn them thoroughly, how to go back and forth, back and forth. Now, technically, the pentatonic is a 5-note scale, so we're really playing the scale twice. We're playing it in 2 octaves, low and then a higher octave. So remember that. But for now, as we learn it, we're going to learn the whole thing, because we need to develop that sense of dexterity in our fingers, and we got to get things happening. So we're just going to play it up and down. But when you start to really know it, okay, and this is leads into the second reason why it's a good scale to learn. This area of the guitar, okay, is where all the action happens. Some of your best little riffs and licks and rock and roll and blues and country history came from this part of the guitar. Now, this also connects to a corridor. I call it a corridor, and it's these 2 treble strings, right? Your high E and your B, running down to the double dots and through the double dots. This corridor is been responsible for more blistering guitar solos in your favorite genre of music. All your favorite classics at some point have probably featured something from this corridor. So these notes are really rich in music history, right? And it all happens here, okay? And guess what? The A minor pentatonic is right in the middle of that, right? So when you start not thinking of what you're fretting as numbers and start thinking as notes, you'll start hearing notes like this: A, C, D, E, G, A, right? Okay, now C and D. Now, that might not seem like a big deal right now, and nor should it, because you don't really need to know this. But moving forward, you're going to realize that, you know what, if I just take those 4 notes, I can make little things with them, little melodies. And that's exactly what riffs, licks, solos, leads, and all that come from, little melodies with these notes. So really, instead of going like, if I'm talking to someone about, hey, how did you play that little lick in the middle of, name the famous rock song, and the guy goes, oh, right here, I just went 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 5. I think he's probably gonna go something like, well, I started in G and I played off the G, and So it comes down to what notes did you play, and I played these notes. They came from the pentatonic scale. They were the 5-7, 5-7, but I know them as G-A-C-D. G-A-C-D. And that, by knowing that, instead of 5-7, 5-7, now I know that's a G-A-C-D, so I can go anywhere there's a G. Anywhere. Okay, where's there a G? Here. Right here. G-A-C-D, 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 G-A-C-D. Back to where we played it before. G-A-C-D, 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 right? Okay. So we're going to figure that out once we know our pentatonic scale. Just like when we were learning chords, right? And we learned C, but it didn't sound like that. It was like, and then D. It wasn't very musical, right? But we had to do it. And that's what we're doing here, right? Being robotic, playing the scales, making our mistakes, right? Building up speed, building up strength. Once you start, that's ingrained in you, now you can start picking apart those little spots that you might make a little melody out of, all within the scale, right? Okay, so that's another big reason why this scale is really cool to know as your first scale. And lastly, we're going to look ahead a little bit. Now, you don't need to know this right now, but I'm just going to tell you, is that A minor has a relative, a cousin, and it's C. So what that means, or it's often referred to as, in the key of C, the 6th chord, or in any key, the 6th chord is what they call a relative minor to the major key, chord in the major key. So in this case, C, right? In the key of C, the 6th chord is A minor. So that makes them relatives. So A minor is a relative minor to C. That means they share the same notes. So therefore the same scale. So now you're getting 2 for 1. So this allows you to play this A minor scale over an A minor chord progression, or anything in C, or you can interchange. Okay? So I have, I know this is kind of like advanced for some of you, okay? But believe me, one day you'll get there. And this is also just to show you why it's good to know your notes, all right, as opposed to numbers. Because it just sort of, later on, when you start to understand how I'm going to use this A minor pentatonic scale that I took so long to learn and all that, it's gonna make better sense to you if you know the note. Now, we're gonna see how we start, or how we can use the whole scale or bits and pieces of the scale with a simple chord progression in the key of C. Now, this chord progression also happens to have an A minor at the beginning, so even bonus. So we're going to play the A minor pentatonic over this chord progression of A minor, F, C, G. All right? Here we go. All right, so we've got the progression playing, and we're just going to start with the low part of the scale, which is played on these top strings up here, right? So we're going to start here. Here we go. This is just randomly. can hear that it makes sense, like it works. Okay? Now we can sort of see that it's all there. All that is missing now is putting your touch on it, right? Through hours and hours of grueling practice. But look, it doesn't matter where you start. We can start right in the middle here. Okay? Just play those 4 notes right there if we want. So we don't have to can if you want. Okay, so that's just an example of how to use it and how it could sound in a basic chord progression in the key of C. All right? When you get to that point, you're going to know that this corridor here, that's famous for a lot of the notes that we have listened to, I call it rock and roll heaven, okay, all came from here in this corridor. So now we've got the A minor pentatonic area. That's got all these great notes in it. And this area does here. And it's like little things like it's got the BB box, right? So we did a video about the BB box, if you want to check that out. And it explains it thoroughly, what the notes are and how it's generally used by me or BB King. Okay, so and then of course this G string provides the rooftop. So we have those notes right here that are all 2 frets apart. And then we have the peak of the roof runs across that G string, and then we play the sides, right, and we go up. Okay, that's our BB boxes. And what happens here is the A minor, the bottom of that A minor, the highest part, is a C. Because remember, A, C, and then this string is mirrored. So now we're already there in that corridor of rock and roll history. So now we can use some of these notes any way we want. Then when we want to get back, we're right here. We can get back, and that's how we connect. One way that we can connect one part of our fretboard continuously into another part, right? So also, not necessarily the A minor pentatonic, but in, say, even the G, that last note, so if you're playing the G pentatonic, you'd be here, and there's that right there. There's that last note, okay? Now that last note on that last string, remember, a scale is all the notes of the scale are along one string. We just play them over different strings that allows us to play them in the same area, but we've got to use different strings. But if that scale is on the same string, right? Right, all the way up. So when we come out of the G pentatonic, we're right here. If we slide, which if you know what that note is, right? That's an A sharp or a B flat. So all we got to do is go up here. Now we're at a C. So now we're connecting it to this rock and roll heaven corridor again, right? All the way, and when we want to go back, we just go back 2 at a time, right? And now we're at that G pentatonic. Okay, so that's another, the pentatonics are good because they break that 2 fret, they end up here, that extra fret, which is actually leading into the C, D, and E, which is just fantastic. There's all kinds of good playing up there, right? Okay, and so that's another reason why I like the A minor or any of the pentatonics. Okay, the ability, the ease to play and the ability to play really good notes, and you can use those notes over, like as you saw, over multiple chord progressions. We used one scale, and it sounded just fine. And that was without even trying to sound fancy, right? So remember, we're live every Tuesday afternoon. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, whatever it is, I try to answer pretty much everything. And if you think I can help you with your journey, by all means, hit subscribe. It means a lot. I always say it tells YouTube that I might be a somebody, even though we all know that I'm a nobody. But all right, so if you're inclined, hit the subscribe, and we'll see you soon. And remember, it's all about the practice. That's it.